So I want to start first by saying this is really, as much as this program is about teacher training, this is really about using spiritual practices for your own conscious living. And you'll see that reflected throughout the program and throughout the way that we're looking to facilitate your learning. And so whether you want to end up teaching Kundalini Yoga at the end of this program is really your choice. You don't even have to know that right now. And so that's why I want to say this is Kundalini Yoga for conscious living, first and foremost. And then there's methodology for teaching that's going to come afterwards. And so really speaking, this is your choice. But first, let me introduce myself. Many of you have seen my work on YouTube, and you may not have known the backstory. So here's my opportunity to let you know where everything has come from and where I came from. So you might recognize this person here on screen, looking a little familiar and a little shady at the same time. This is me just before Kundalini Yoga teacher training. This is me at a time where, I remember sitting on the couch. I was watching TV or something, I was smoking cigarettes, and I was thinking to myself, if I don't do something different with my life, I'm never going to reach my full potential. That was 2007. And very soon after that, I got into a car accident. And in my recovery from that car accident, I ended up in lots and lots of different yoga classes. And so I would say that Pilates and yoga were instrumental in my healing. And that injury, that was quite a severe car accident, hadn't left any long-term damage. I'm very blessed and very lucky that, not even lucky, this is where the universe stepped in and said, aha, here's your breaking point. And this is what you're meant to do. I wouldn't have probably heard it any other way. I thought yoga was kind of foo-foo. I tried it a few times and I didn't really like it. I preferred to go to the gym. I liked pushing weights. I liked being athletic, and I just didn't see yoga as being the same thing. But every moment has its teacher. And at that particular time, because I was in a car accident, I couldn't move as I had before. So it was really important to find something where I could strengthen and lengthen. And that journey ultimately led me to Kundalini Yoga. I remember sitting down just as you guys did this morning and tuning in for the first time. And I let my hands go and I looked around at everybody else in the program and we went, oh my God, what the fuck just happened? It was like this mantra had turned on a whole bunch of neural networks in my brain, what I later would describe as neural networks, but really lights went on. And not just one light, not just one eureka moment, but this whole like motherboard of, oh, wow, what have I been doing up until now? And I tuned in that one time, and I've never stopped tuning in. So day to day, moment by moment, some days some moments in my life, I've had a long, heavy practice. Other times have been light and more breath work or more meditation, but it's been with me for this particular amount of time. And that was the moment where it all happened. That was 2007. Fast forward now to leaving a full-time government job, which nobody really ever does, and looking to find something that felt more meaningful, more purposeful. And that came to an opportunity to open a yoga studio. And involved in that yoga studio was getting married and having a child. And this was the beginning of running a business. And for those of you who are entrepreneurs or have connection to people who are entrepreneurs, you know that the teaching of the thing or the skill itself has very little to do with running a business. They're two very separate animals, very separate entities. But that's what I launched for myself. And so the photograph you're seeing here is April 2014 when I opened YogaVision here just outside of Toronto. And I ran that business all the way up until March 2020. This is me looking absolutely miserable. I hadn't slept for a really long time. This is the week after, maybe actually a couple days before the provincial governments, the governments were announcing full closures. And, you know, we were at a time in the business where I had 2 staff and 11 teachers, and we're really starting to see growth and see potential. And, you know, 6 years of hard work was really starting to pay off. And there came the announcement that you know, every business has to close. And honestly, when I look at this photo, I remember so many sleepless nights. Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to pull this together? What's going to happen? How is this going to happen? A lot of uncertainty. And what started off as 2 weeks of closure turned into many months. For those of you who are in North America here, you know that that was pretty devastating, and without real idea of what was going to happen afterwards. And so this is a photo of me making a video presentation to the staff as well as to our community at the time, saying, hey, we're going to close and not sure what's going to happen after this. So talk about surrender moments, talk about, you know, okay, the universe has different plans, and, you know, get with the program, relax, sleep a little bit, relax a little bit. And in the meantime, what had happened was in 2010, when I graduated Kundalini Yoga Teacher Training, my full teacher training, 500 hours, I had got this idea, call it Kundalini, call it foreshadowing, call it the universe, call it whatever you like, to put video up on YouTube. And 10 years ago, YouTube definitely was not what it is now. YouTube was something like, oh, people are putting little videos up, and there was something about it that was very captivating. And I thought, there isn't actually very much Kundalini yoga there. Why don't I just throw a video? And my neighbor at the time, who lived next door, was a videographer. He worked for a news station. And my cousin was in the video, and this guy I used to work with at Lululemon. And so I said, okay, well, Saturday, we're going to go down to Trinity Bellwoods Park, which is a very famous park in Toronto, downtown Toronto. And I recorded that video, put it up on YouTube, and kind of forgot about it, to be honest. And over that course of time, that video gained momentum, it gained followership, it gained viewership. It just became something unto itself. And again, no real prodding from me, just there was my video. And from time to time over the years, I started putting a little bit more and a little bit more. I'm not really a videographer myself, but I could understand that people needed access. And the comments at the time were that, hey, you know, I live in this small little town in rural whatever, there's no yoga close by, there's no Kundalini yoga close by, but thank you. Thanks for doing that. And I didn't really get it until this closure happened. And all the other yoga studio owners that I was in touch with, and there's a few Facebook groups that have studio owners in them, and that's particularly why we gather online. And a lot of them were saying, I'm going to just keep my community, and I'm going to put it on Zoom, and I'm just going to record classes, and that's what I'm going to do. And I had this, okay, that's what the industry standard is right now. I'm not sure that this is the community that I need to work with. We had a lot of seniors in my community and a lot of people who were young parents. I just could see that wasn't the momentum. They were, number one, very not used to technology. Number two, probably going to end up homeschooling their kids, and that wasn't really going to work, myself included. And so I decided, hey, we're just going to go live to YouTube. And at the time I had maybe 18,000 subscribers on YouTube, which to me said there's enough interest and enough love for Kundalini yoga that this could really work. And then that's what I did. So by, I think April 2020, I started broadcasting and doing live classes. And as time went on, the people who were out there, many of you actually who were part of that growth and that love, started tuning in and then one day I just sent a little, like I recorded something in my basement apartment, and I said, hey, if you want to email me, here's my email address. Just, again, call it Kundalini, call it intuition. And the email started coming. Hey, Salimah, thank you. Many of them, hey, Salimah, thank you. Salimah, what can I do next? How can I use this stuff? I've never done Kundalini yoga before. What should I do? And that became the beginning of this particular pivot point. So I'd had a teacher training live, and we'd spend two days every weekend live in studio doing this program. And I thought, okay, there's enough interest. Maybe, just maybe, people would like to do this online. And there you were. And there it was. So that's my story to date. And the channel now has 26,000 as of a couple of days ago. And a growth and a love and an interest in consciousness. And I think that if Kundalini yoga has taught me anything, number one, it's about not just what we do on the mat, because, you know, anyone can stand on a mat and do stuff and look pretty doing it, but it's really what happens when we come off the mat. So I look at what it's like to be practicing, trying new postures, using different breath work, holding my body in different shapes, and then stepping off the mat and saying, how can I challenge myself differently in what I want to accomplish? What little balance point, what little tipping point can I utilize in this conversation, in this project, in this healing that will allow more growth? And that's really what Kundalini yoga has led me to. And so when I look at this program and I look at all of you who have joined, what I want to invite you to do is to think about, number one, when you step on the mat as a teacher, or as a student, or as a learner, it's one stance. As you stand in the front of the room and conduct a class, it's a different stance. It's leadership. So yes, teaching, but more leadership. And not just on the mat, but everywhere. How do you show up at work differently? How do you work your family differently? How do you work with your own healing differently? And so number one is leadership, and number two is impact. Because I'll tell you, my truth is that when I started yoga teacher training, I never wanted to teach. No way, no how. That was like not the thing and not part of what my interest was. And then pretty soon, when I got in front of students and I saw the shifts that were happening just in 45 minutes, just in an hour, I thought, I don't think I can keep this to myself. I don't think this is just for me. I think this is for as many people as I can impact. And so those are the two concepts that I would offer to you as launching places for your own discovery in this program. Number one is, how do you pick up leadership for yourself? How will you show up differently? And then where is the sphere of impact that you can have? Is it at home? Great. Is it at work? Great. Is it in your community? Great. Is it across the world? Great. Whatever it is, think about that, because this changing of your nervous system, this launching of your consciousness is really about the world, and the world needs us right now. There's never been a time before the pandemic, where people were as interested and curious about what yoga and meditation and breath work have to offer. In fact, all esoteric practices, but let's focus on the one that we're gathered for. And I think that that's really important. What used to be woo-woo is now got a lot of science and a lot of backing behind it. Shaliza will talk to you about that. There's a lot, and it's growing. And I think these fields of knowledge, polyvagal theory, growing because yoga is demonstrated a way to come out of anxiety, a way to deliver ourselves from depression, and to carve a future that's more healthy, more happy, and also, might I say, more spiritual. Because we really can't have a good, happy life without all of those components. So that's me in a nutshell. That's where the practice has delivered me to. And so here's the practice itself. Here is what I'd like you to think about, and what I propose this program to be about, and where we'll be steering ourselves. So number one, first and foremost, this is your personal discovery. This is about what you want to learn, and how will you lead yourself to that learning point? How will you discover who it is that you are, and how you will lead in your corner of the world? The second one is to establish your voice and have impact. That means from basics, from speaking up in meetings, from speaking up in your personal relationships, to actually taking up space, to doing advocacy, to being an activist. And then finally, community development. And that community development really begins with us. It's this gathering that we do together. Because what we'll come to learn, especially through the science that is being developed right now, or developed right now, is that we need each other to regulate. We can be our own rock, we can be our own island. That's a strategy for coping. But really speaking, we need others. And so when we work together in collaboration, in community, is where we see really big changes. So don't be surprised if some of the people in this group, and I think somebody mentioned it today, these are your people. They showed up at this time in this place to be with you. Some of them will irritate the piss out of you. Truth. Some of them you'll feel kindred spirit with, sisterhood with, truth, and everything in between. So enjoy that process and make good use of it. Jump into the Facebook group and make your comments and share your stuff, because that's really how we can support each other. Okay, so that's the learning outcomes that as a teaching team, Angela, Shaliza, and I have developed for you, and where we'll be presenting information so that you can start to think about your own journey and how you might incorporate these things. And yes, Kundalini Yoga is the foundation. And it's not just the yoga, it's what it does for you. Okay, here are some important discovery points. Number one, it's a journey, not a race. I learned this the hard way when I first set foot into my teacher training program. We tuned in, we did that first class. The very next day, I went to an event at my astrologer's house, and I fell off a picnic table and right onto my tailbone, like boom, like right onto the Kundalini, the origin of Kundalini in my body, and killed it. Like I couldn't even walk. And for those of you who've ever had that kind of injury, you know, you get to sit on a donut and you can't really do anything about it. That's it. There's no cast to be had. There's nothing to do except just kind of nurse it along and hope that time passes. And one thing that one of my teachers said was, it's a journey, not a race. So just do your thing, let your body heal. Don't overexert. Don't go into don't go into overexertion, because it's not going to help you. So I'll say the same thing now. If you're starting off new to the practice or with an injury, that's okay. It'll mend itself. You'll find more flexibility. You'll find your muscle. Just let it be. And the more we're welcoming of what is, the better off. Feel what's real and heal. So let's invite gratitude into our collective. This is where we're transferring knowledge. Everybody's opinion is valid and comes from a particular point of view. I want to keep space open for that. Everyone's at a different learning place in their practice. Some of you are brand new and not so familiar with Kundalini Yoga, but are interested in the spiritual aspects. Some of you have been practicing for a long time, years maybe, and all is good, all is valid. Next is really where Shaliza comes with a lot of experience and counseling, and that is to listen to and honor your body's emotional responses and sensations. So in other words, there's going to be information here. There may be comments here. There may be discussions that are raised that you're going to feel them. Feel them. And know that it's all temporary. Know that your body has a certain amount of wisdom, and that wisdom is there for you to discover and explore. So if you need to excuse yourself, go to the bathroom, eat something, take a break, journal, please go ahead. We're all adult learners here, and it's all good. And that's probably if when people are new to the program, they say, what's the hardest part? It's rarely the homework. It's what some of these practices and ideas and concepts will actually help you to see. And they're not always easy. Sometimes they're really heavy. And we're here, and we're all here. Self-agency means you take care of you and you let us know how we can support. We will check in personally with you from time to time. And we also need you to come forward and advocate for what you need. Last time there was somebody, breaks were 10 minutes, and she said, I cannot get my dog out to take a break and come back in the amount of time you're allocating. I need 15. Okay, So then we get 15 minutes. It's all good. It's all workable. If you need more time for lunch, make that arrangement. It's all good. And then on a practical side, just minimize. Know that these classes are coming. Know that they require you to be present, and do your best with family and responsibilities to keep yourself here best you can. Okay, and if there's any challenges or with the program itself, you need extra support or extra help, feel free. You know that Angela's really been a great support for tech and how to navigate the online stuff. Shaliza's here as a mental health consultant. She's a therapist herself, and I'm here. So you've got lots of support. You are all here for each other as well. So please do reach out. Okay, so this is Kundalini Yoga and meditation. My offer to you is that this is experiential. So when you ask what's the best thing I can do to prepare, my number one answer always is go to your practice. Go to your practice, check out new meditations, check out new breath work practices, go to new kriyas, discover, experience, but take it into your body. In my very first year of teaching, I had a group of 7 students. This is Kundalini Yoga Teacher Training. And they were at a point in their practice where they were starting to teach. And they came with their books, and one of them sat down to teach and basically read everything out and then taught from there. And the same for the entire group. And I said, okay, so what did you do to prepare? And almost all of them said, oh, I watched videos. And I said, did you practice? No, I took notes. And I said, okay, if you're learning to play the flute, or you wanted to play the cello or the piano, what would you do? Would you watch a video? No, I'd pick up the instrument. And it's the same advice here. Pick up the instrument. Get yourself to the mat. That's not easy. I know that. I welcome that idea that, yeah, good idea, Salimah. It's not always possible. I don't always feel like it. That's where you see the magic. 100%. That's my best advice. We're also trauma informed, which means for the layout of this program, it's really important for us to acknowledge where we've all come from, the time and space that's happening in the world right now, and also to move with the science of knowing that. From my experience in the studio, there was, out of 10 people who came in, 9 of them were coming because of some stress-related or trauma-related reason. It wasn't just, oh, I'm curious about yoga, I'd like to try it. Most of the time, there was something informing that decision. A doctor told me, my friend told me, I'm overstressed, I'm yelling at my kids all the time. There was something behind that. And so as a teacher or a leader in this industry, it's really important to know what could be triggering your students. Why are they coming? And hopefully this program will give you the basis, the foundation for how to go about helping them, and at least being informed yourself. I will certify 300 hours, and that you'll get a certification at the end, provided all your assignments are handed in on time. And this would be for those of you starting off in this particular month. You have October 2022 to hand in all your assignments. Okay, so full year. And this is done with purpose. It takes a while to absorb all the changes. It takes a while to get into the habit and the practice, especially if you're new. So know that that's all done intentionally. You have 12-month access to all the online resources, so all the way through your program. And as I mentioned before, you have mentor and peer support. That's the highlights of the program. So where are we now? For those of you who are starting right now, this is your first 100 hours. Your first 100 hours is about exploring. And this is your practice time, your reading, your time with us online. And that is to assess where you are now. What do I know about myself? What are my beliefs? What are my origins? What are my habits and beliefs? And then look for your path. How can Kundalini Yoga help? Meet your community, which is what we're doing today, and we'll continue to do as you go forward, and understand your role as a teacher. What kind of space do you want to take up? And in order to do that, we'll cover some really important things, meditation and breath work, which we're doing today, And the next module is history and philosophy, ethics, and styles of yoga. So that's coming in the next 2 months. We'll move on now to 200 hours. So this is January, February onwards. And that is really hopefully to have for you to start to embed these practices into all the things that you're doing. So maybe, just maybe, before you get out of bed, you can do a little bit of breath work, or pause and do a meditation, or call to the universe for support and assistance as you're going through something challenging. Take yoga with you everywhere. Build new habits, build new beliefs. Remember your body and gain confidence in your body. Handle pressure, handle joy, find your voice, flex a little, and then assess how far you've come. In order to do that, the topics we're discovering are energy alignment, how to move safely, how to sequence, and what are the principles of movement? How do we safely move the body? How do we use props and different ways of modifying practices in order to make them accessible, whatever age and stage of life you're in right now? And then finally, the last 300 hours is your expansion. So this includes the community classes where you'll actually reach out to your friends and your family and your networks and teach classes. I'm sure you'll find yourself adding value at home and at work prior to this, but you'll also find it. You'll launch your social media challenge. So one of the biggest things that we've seen along the way is that there's a shift of identity. You go from being you, yourself, in your work and your identity, mom, student, teacher, however way you've been, and then to actually announce yourself as a yogi. Hey, this is what I love. This is what I'm studying right now. And social media, as you have probably guessed by now, is the best way to do it, particularly if we're doing most of our work online. You'll have an inquiry report. I'll say more about this next module, but know that there's a research component and that you'll be practice teaching in your community. So this is Kundalini Yoga methodology, the business of yoga. I'll show you how to set up your online classes. You'll do first aid, CPR, you'll present your personal inquiry, and you'll start teaching in the community. So those are the ways that we get there. And then finally, some nitty gritty here. Aim for 100% attendance. This is really important because while you can listen to the recordings, they will be available. The discussion and the way that things come across are going to be very unique to the time and place that it's presented. So do your best, come on time. Let me know ahead of time if you're going to be late or you need to leave early. I really appreciate that. It helps, especially when we're doing group work, to organize things. Get yourself ready, be comfortable. You're an adult learner, so do what you need to do to be comfortable. And then wear your whites. This is your uniform. And when you put it on, hopefully the elements of what you're developing here will stay with you as you put on these whites. This is yours. So wherever you want to be is what will meet you there. Whatever happens on the mat happens off the mat. And you'll notice this. You'll notice this when you see your students move, and you'll notice this for yourself. Where do I hesitate to shift weight or balance? Where do I get overly competitive and want to move into an advanced posture when I'm not quite ready and I haven't quite established my focus yet? All of those things translate into the rest of the world. Use it as a way to reflect. Keep it inward focused. It's all you. And then develop and document your experience. Journaling, blogging, photographs, small videos on your own phone, posting on social, all really good ways to keep that process moving. So time requirements, these are some of the things to keep in mind as you're establishing now your daily practice is starting from today, you'll be choosing a breath work and a meditation and a tuning in and some exercises that you're going to do on a daily. We sort of set that around 15 minutes. And so that 15-minute practice is the beginning of your dedication to yourself, your commitment. So that's number one. In the course, you'll need to submit 50 practice classes plus reflections so that we can see that you've tried a variety of different classes online or live. At the end, you'll be teaching 20 practicum classes. doing a personal inquiry, so doing researching, and then in your own way, reading the books that are recommended on your reading list, reflecting, researching, exploring, growing, changing, having that good ugly cry from time to time, and then really settling into who you're becoming. All super important, and all will require your time. One of the, a temptation that I hope you can resist is taking on many more courses as you go through this, because something will give and something will go sideways. So do your best to stay focused and concentrate. There's a lot here and there's a lot to do. Just a little side note, course books. There's 6 that are recommended out of the list of 10 or 12 now. It's a growing list. So keep a little budget aside. Some people go right to the library and pick those up. Others of you may want to keep them in your personal library. So up to you how you want to do that. CPR and first aid is required as well, so that you're safe when you go out into the community. And then for those of you who choose to pursue teaching, you probably need to think about getting insurance, and that's about $120 for the year, depending on where you live. In the US and Canada, it's about $120. Okay, this is my second last slide. Shaliza is here with us. She's an educator in this public school board, as well as a mental health counselor. She'll do our next presentation. She's a 2018 grad of this particular program. In its live format, Angela, who you've met many times, she is peer and tech support, and she's just about to graduate this year. So you have lots of expertise, lots of support around you. So please do tap into that experience. And then here I am. I'm been registered now as a yoga therapist for about 10 years. I have 5,000 hours of training, plus now all the teaching and numerology consults. I graduated my own program in 2008, and I'm here to love you, first and foremost, and hold up bar high. I see you. And that's what I want you to do, is to see yourself. Satnam.